Hey, everybody. It's Thursday, 1 o'clock.
Oh my gosh, we're live.
Stuart, get your act together and quit fidgeting. Opposite Saxes.
That was a few shows ago, fidgeting.
But you still are fidgeting.
I'm working on it.
And what happened to your Zoom etiquette?
My Zoom etiquette.
Yeah. What happened to your Zoom etiquette?
I didn't see the disclaimer.
You always have an answer.
And my microphone wasn't muted.
It's opposite Saxes time.
Yes, it is.
And I want to know.
You want to know?
I want to know the day is coming up for the dog to be groomed.
Ooh,
and
yes.
We always have this discussion.
I have to go to the bank for a second mortgage.
Well, it's not that bad. Could be worse.
It's 4 times what I spent on a haircut.
Well, that's not saying much. You go kind of the frugal way.
My haircuts are over in under 10 minutes, and probably closer to 5.
Be? That's a whole nother,
the dog is there for 3.5 hours.
And how much do you tip that person that takes care of Shayna?
That's a hard one.
It usually runs about $70 for Shayna.
I thought you told me 50.
No, I think it's 70. No, you know what it is. You get her more than I do.
Well, if it was $70, then I mean, if you're really generous, then you go 20%. If not, $10 would be about a 15% tip. And then you've always said the question is, if the owner of the grooming shop is the one that grooms the dog, do you tip them since they're the owner, or do you just tip an employee of the owner?
But the owner of this shop never does a grooming.
We don't know that.
Yeah, we do.
Oh, okay.
He's the older gentleman.
Yeah.
That's carrying a little bit more weight, and he's always by the front door greeting people.
So then you have to assume that it is an employee and it's a groomer. And look at it this way. There's probably one person there that does the shampooing of the dog, and maybe another one even that blows them out, another one that does the cutting, because there's 4 or 5 people on staff.
Yeah, but be that as it may, it's really the person doing the cutting.
The tip probably goes into a generic tip jar.
No, it doesn't.
And then they all the people that are working there probably split all the tips for the day.
No. There's no tip jar. And then don't you remember at the end when you put your Visa or MasterCard in and they say the tip, just add on the tip?
But what I'm saying, there are some places that even though you leave the tip some places the tip goes directly to the person that gave you the service. But in other cases, the tips, whether it's in a tip jar or it was added from swiping a credit card, is all split evenly among the people that are there. In restaurants, very often it's that way. Like the pizza places. The pizza place, when you go and pick up your pizza and you leave a tip, yeah, they got a tip jar right on the counter, but some people write a tip on the ticket.
And that, I would say, would
goes
go
to the house
server. If they're putting the tip on the MasterCard, that's.
Now I'm saying if it's like Papa John's and you go and you pick up your pizza, you hand them the card, they hand you the thing, the slip, and it says tip. You put a tip on it. The person that rang you up isn't going to just pocket that money.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
They're probably going to take that money and combine it with all the other tips that came in for the day.
Okay, well and
then split it among the 5 or 6 people. Okay, that's different.
I'm saying if we go to Randy's Steakhouse and they print out your Visa MasterCard slip and they put tip.
Add the tip.
That is going to that server.
That's going to go to that server, and that server also gives a portion of it to their helper.
Possibly, yes.
Possibly,
yes. But in this case.
But in this case, like you take the dog in, if Josie was the one that cut the dog and groomed the dog and everything, and you put that tip on there, that tip is probably going to go directly to Josie. We don't know because we don't own the shop.
No, but that person or Josie really deserves that tip.
Yeah.
Because it's not the easiest thing in the world to groom a dog.
That's true. And you don't know how much Josie is getting paid for being there to groom the dogs.
You would do 20%, or let me put it to you this way. you have been doing 20%.
I am generally a 20% tipper, and again, you have one thing you also have to be very careful of. When you get your slip in the restaurant or wherever it is, do you figure that 20% on the bottom line, or do you go up a couple of lines past the taxes? So for
That's
instance,
net.
if the net was $50 and then there's another $10 in taxes,
Right.
it could add up to a $60 bill. So do you leave $10 for
On the net,
20%?
on the dinner.
Or do you leave $12 because that's 20% of the total bill?
I thought that
What's some?
Miss Manners would say that it was
On the-
20% on the net.
On the net,
dinner.
yes. And all. But what some people will do, because there's taxes on everything, very often they'll just go to the bottom line. If it's $60,
Right.
then they'll just say, well, I will leave a 15% tip on that bottom line. So
Yeah.
that would be about $9, or
I don't like to do that.
so $9, $10. It's about, it's
Is that
about
what you
fair.
do though?
Yes. The real question
You
is,
do?
I usually go on the net before taxes.
Oh, that's what I thought you did.
And figure it.
Yeah, that's.
And I guess I would consider myself to be a more generous type tipper. I guess only because I've been in business and I know how difficult it is. And most servers, now we're talking restaurants here, because that's
Mhm.
The groomer is a different category
Right.
than this.
Right.
But in restaurants, the servers basically get probably even less than minimum wage because they are working on tips.
Mhm.
And so what the owner of the restaurant will figure is their tip potential plus the amount that they get from the restaurant should be about at least minimum wage or better. That's how they figure it. So let's put it into dollars and cents. Let's assume that the server gets $5 an hour. That's not minimum wage, but they say $5 an hour plus tips.
Right.
So the thing is that I will give you 3-4 tables and hope that you'll fill those tables to the point where you can now get your $5 an hour, but you will get tips from maybe 3 or 4 of those tables per hour, and you could end up making $20 or $30 an hour. It's
done.
It's playing a little bit with the math.
That was a long way to go, though. I just want to know the percentage that you usually tip. But yeah, I get what you're saying. I do get what you're saying.
The question I would say is, if you're in a restaurant and you don't really feel like the service was worthwhile, would you ever get up and pay the bill without a tip or with a very low tip?
Well, there have been times that I have said to you, and very few times, but there have been times that I've said to you, and I look over and see what you're writing, and I'll go, really? You think so? And you'll say, well, yeah, they're working hard, and it wasn't his fault that it came out the way it did or whatever. And sometimes I'll say, yeah, you're right. But then there were other times I'll say they had a terrible attitude. They could have cared less that they were waiting on us.
Excuse me, can I get another glass of water here?
And I would do that. And you will say, no, I'm going to go ahead and give this person more. So I don't always agree with what you're tipping, but most of the time I do.
But now what you are faced with is a decision.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'll just leave a reasonable tip, but I'm not coming back to this place again because I just don't like the service. So ultimately that's going to cost the restaurant. But again, and I've said this before on this show and on many shows, I don't fault that server. I really fault the management, because the management should make sure. Now I want to make sure you go back and check your tables. Go back. How is the food?
Well,
is it warm enough? Do you need some more? Can I freshen your drink?
But maybe the manager isn't around as much as he should be. And if you don't tip as well to the the waiter or the waitress, then that will tell them, was it something I did? Are they just being obnoxious? And maybe it would give them food for thought, or maybe they would realize, yeah, I really wasn't at my best.
I would think that the attitude of people who wait on tables,
Mhm.
in restaurants, even though you may have had a bad day in the parking lot when you locked your car to go into work,
Mhm.
you better walk into work and put on that apron and smile the rest of your shift, because you have to realize that is your job. You know,
I understand that.
you have to be pleasant to your guests, because if it can have an effect on your pocket.
I agree with you, but you don't know what's going on in their lives.
That's right.
You don't know if something's wrong with them physically, mentally, if something happened in the family, if you have no idea if this
But
is
do
their
they bring,
last day working.
but do they bring that to work with them?
They're not
That's not,
supposed to, but they do. And
then
if
maybe
they
they,
don't do a good job, then they have to realize that they can suffer. Their
well,
tips can
maybe
suffer
they
for it.
need to find another, you know, means of employment.
Well, it's
Because
interesting you're saying this because usually you're always swaying and sticking up for the wait staff. And I'm the one that is a little tougher.
I always thought that a good hook,
Mhm.
and I don't mean to throw out suggestions out there, but would you have a tendency to maybe leave a little bit more generous tip if the waitress is pregnant? If she's
I don't
five,
know, would
six
you? You're
months, if she's 5 or 6 months pregnant and comes over to the table, and maybe she's going to play the role pretty good, and she's going to go while she's serving, can I get you anything else? And I'll bring your check. And with the back, and when they will, I mean, it's
Do you think that when I was
a
seven,
man would
eight,
probably,
9 months pregnant, getting down on that floor and putting shoes on ladies' feet when I was pregnant, do you think they necessarily bought the shoes from me?
yeah, they did.
I don't
But they
think so.
also would say,
I don't think
oh,
so.
oh, sweetie, let me have the shoehorn. I'll put it on.
Yeah, they might do that. Yeah, they might. I know they did that, but I don't necessarily
Well, they
think
also
that.
knew that you own the shoe store. So
I don't necessarily think they bought the shoes because I was pregnant, and
I
I
think
don't think
it works.
so. Well, at any rate,
I would probably get myself
would,
one of those little fake casts on my arm and come
would you? Yeah, you would. Would you ever give anybody above 20% if it was a really good meal? Would you go to 25? Would you go to 30?
I don't know if it comes out to percentages that way. However, how it might compute, if I go in someplace and I buy something for about $15 with the tax, it comes out to about $16.80 or
Mhm.
$17. So I might hand them a $20 bill and say, keep the change. When you go back and compute it, you might figure, well, that was a real healthy tip that I left. If I sat and computed it
Mhm.
for 20%, it might have come out to $19.20. All right, I gave them $20 for a $17, purchase. Or so.
Okay, I was
So I
just
might have
curious
gone
if
a
you would
little
leave
bit.
more. Yeah, that's nice.
You
That's
know,
very nice.
look, cruise ships. If you start to do the computing a little bit, those cabin attendants that you have on a cruise ship, you're paying them what, $20 per day per person. So that's like $40 a day. They make out
Yeah, well,
pretty good.
there is a whole different show because there you're not as
Well, that's dictated by the cruise line, not by the set. Now, you also notice
uh,
if you've ever taken a cruise, very often, like the last day or so on the cruise, the night before, your waiter in the dining room opens his wallet and he shows you
yes,
his
pictures.
his 12 kids and everything. Yes, and I've been at sea for 4 months, and I haven't seen my
We did
children, but
fall for that in the beginning and then we got smart.
And so,
Then we got smart.
so, and I'm hoping that maybe I'll be able to get off the cruise ship and see my 12 children and all for, a week
Yeah,
before
but-
getting back on board.
Don't fall for that.
Because
folks.
they all need new shoes and,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
so, I'll leave it. Let's do
It
extra.
might be in some cases that they do have a larger family, but after you've been on a few cruises and it's all the same lingo.
You find
Yeah.
then when you
Yeah.
get off the cruise, you see your waiter going into the parking lot and getting into his Jaguar.
Oh, I was gonna
and-
say
and-
Mercedes.
and driving.
it'd be kind
Oh,
of- At any rate, we do have to do this on another show because, there's a little bit more to
well,
what we
yeah.
said.
I mean, tipping is it's part of the service of going someplace. I mean, there are a lot of stores that you go into. Like, for instance, we talk about groomers, and we talk about the barber shop, and you talk about fast food food places and
Right, right.
restaurants. Those are natural places where you normally tip a server. But there's a lot of places that you go into that there is a tip jar. For
Right.
instance, you go to a restaurant and there's a trio that's playing up on the stage. They're playing a little bit of light jazz or
Well,
something
you
while you're
leave
eating.
a little something. For
There's
them.
usually a jar there.
Well, that's fine. That's fine.
But again, do you generally, if you go in and there is live music and you see a tip jar, do you take money out and put it in the tip jar?
No, because I know you will.
Well, I always will.
No,
Because
I
I've
would.
been one of those musicians up
Yeah.
on
I would.
the
if you
stage.
could, I would.
Yeah. But a lot of people don't. They figure, well, the music is just part of the dinner experience.
Yeah.
But
no,
there's
that's not
lots
the
of
case.
there's lots of places where you go.
Yeah.
You go to a donut shop,
Well, that's a whole
that-
other story.
there's always a tip jar.
Yeah. Well, that's just some
in a
spare
donut
change
shop.
that you can put in. But at any rate,
and you know what, they can make a fair amount of money just on the spare change, because people, I don't know about you, well, you do know about me. I hate carrying change in my pocket.
yeah.
So
you do.
if it comes out
You
to 52 something 52 cents, the change goes in the jar.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
I give it to you.
And you know who is okay if you tip?
Who?
Christine Dean.
Christine Dean? Well, yeah, you can tip her healthfully.
She, yeah.
Healthy? Yes, give her a healthy tip.
Yeah.
You know
yeah,
why?
Yeah.
Because you've heard us talk about Christine Dean.
And
Christine Dean is the DFW networking diva.
She makes us look fabulous.
Her business is about helping you grow and advance your business. If you've got a website, you're perfectly 100% happy with it. You're happy with the number of customers that you have, fine. But if you think for a moment, yeah, you know what, I could use about 10% more customers, because that might translate into 20% more income. Christine Dean can help you get there simply by tweaking your current website or giving you some ideas to help market your business to a new audience.
Don't listen to us. Just go to her website.
Very
or
easy.
Give her a call, email her, just do it.
DFWnetworkingdiva.com. All the information you need is right there. And you want to, I think that was a good tip.
It was
Don't
a
you?
very good tip.
And I got another tip for you. Come back here again next week and we'll do another
Well,
show.
I'll be here.
I will be too.
Will they be here?
You better be. Otherwise, we're not going to give you a tip. Ha, ha, ha.
See you next week.
Bye.